Notably, one, it was described as a temporary ban, and two, it was the specific Zach Rohr channel, and Asmongold has several.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Asmongold can't go live on his normal channel because Zach Rohr got banned. Like, I danced around this much. I'm sorry about yesterday. It was a mistake. Asmongold banned. Oh, let's see.
It added too much work behind the scenes, and I don't think we'd be able to do that on a regular basis, so we're not going to do either of those things ever again. And of course, that is the only reason, because again, you guys loved it so much, and it pains me not to be able to make you happy. Well, of course, I'd love to continue my streak of just never making a bad decision. You know, I have to think about what's best for my team. So yeah, let's just do what we fucking do around here. Let's raw dog the news and talk about it. And actually, the first thing that we're going to talk about today was one of the most requested stories. It's another YouTuber, Twitch streamer that's out there apologizing, and that's a guy by the name of Asmongold. Because you've got tons of people pissed off at this guy, tons of people calling for him to be banned, and that's because during a live stream yesterday, he started talking about Israel and Palestine, and he said about Palestinians.
If you want to consider a genocide as a systematic killing of a group of people, they have genocide built into Sharia law right now. So no, I'm not going to cry a fucking river when people who have genocide that's baked into their laws are getting genocided. I don't give a fuck. They're terrible people. These people are not your allies. They are not the same as us. They come from an inferior culture that is horrible. It kills people for their identity, and it is directly antithetical to everything Western values stand for, and it is an inferior culture in all ways.
So unsurprisingly, you have tons outraged online, people saying he's actively advocating for genocide, tons of people comparing his comments to Nazi rhetoric.
Bro, this is straight up one-to-one what Nazis said about Jewish people, what like the most right-wing approach to this conversation. This is insane. I don't think he understands like how unimaginably up this statement is.
And this, as others responded with things like, you live in the United States, skid mark. Genocide is actually baked into the laws of your own country. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day, you greasy fucking freak. As well as deserves to be perma-banned off Twitch for this. The level of moral depravity to say this shit, I don't even understand how it's possible. Right, and there are tons of people pointing to Twitch's terms of service that his comments may have broken, and others thinking that a Twitch ban isn't even enough in terms of repercussions. With people pointing to his OTK network and saying things like, if I were an OTK, I would leave the org so fast as long as he is one of the owners. Adding, I'm not crazy about deplatforming people, but we just watched a bunch of human beings get burned alive, and this miserable piece of shit is calling them inferior. And with all this, for his part, Asmongold actually ended up calling in to Hasan's stream and criticized him.
You know what's interesting about this? I was thinking about this quite a bit. And Asmongold, you know what he did? He Reddit it too close to the sun. He Reddit's pretty hard on a regular basis. Like, he is constantly getting feedback and this is like not to absolve him of the things that he said. I'm not saying that at all. But like, I think what ended up happening is Reddit breached containment, and like that statement, that sentiment, which is so commonplace in Reddit, probably caused him to think, oh, it's just a normal thing that I can say that I see on many different subreddits. And, you know, people won't, maybe some people will yell at me like they do when I say whatever else I see on my Reddit, but ultimately it'll be fine. Not recognizing that, like, Reddit does have the capacity to, if you are very invested in it, it does have the capacity to have you come across like completely unhinged by normal bystanders. Okay, why are you so harsh on Redditors? There are plenty of awesome corners on Reddit. No, dude, that's just the broad majority of Reddit, especially like a lot of the places that like even the liberal places on Reddit that talk about news and politics is like incredibly fucking right wing when it comes to Islam. Okay, and if you get your marks from that. If you get your marks from that, and I said this like a while ago about what will happen if like Asmon will not appreciate the world of politics. He will not appreciate the world of politics because it is very unkind. I said this when he started doing news coverage, like real-time news coverage, if you recall, like months ago. Because It's not the same as talking about like women in video games or gay representation in video games or anything like that. When you start doing more news coverage, when you start doing more political coverage, you immediately have a bunch of people who are going to be primed to see what you're saying in the least charitable ways possible. In this circumstance, it wasn't even that, but like across the board, like you might get a lot of people who share your perspective in appreciating you, showering you with, positive affirmations, but you're going to get a shit ton of people. You are going to get a shit ton of people who also fucking despise you. I know this from my own personal perspective, especially with like people who are supposed to be aligned with me. Okay. And the problem is a lot of things that might be considered normal in subreddits, a lot of things that might be considered like within the confines of a subreddit that might be considered like unconscionable will be laughed at by the broader audience. For example, the cracker ban, right? If you go out in the real world and say this guy got banned for saying a racial slur, and then they ask you what slur it was, and you say cracker, they will laugh you out of that room. But if you looked at LSF every single time, anti-white sentiment is expressed, you would get a very different opinion of how people view this story, how people view this. And it has like I said, it has the capacity to cause you to really misunderstand how normal people interpret certain situations. Okay? And this is one of those situations. Like I think he got primed into thinking that this is going to be like potentially a controversial thing that is pretty commonplace, and that if reached out to a broader audience, at most it'll get like, women in video games style scrutiny. But of course it went above and beyond. Because what goes on Reddit that might be perceived as a base take in subreddits, specific subreddits, is not going to be seen as appropriate, especially when it is side by side with images of burning bodies. That's it. Too much Reddit.
Where they discussed all of this. The conversation going a few hours long, going back and forth in the context of cultural values and what calling a culture inferior means. And so I'll link to the whole thing in the description. You had them saying things like,
You don't think that I support Israel, do you?
I don't, but I think
Okay,
that
good.
no, I don't think you support Israel, but I think you saying that
don't.
like
Not at
Palestinians are immoral or evil or have an evil, antiquated culture or are barbaric is not
that.
only ahistorical. What's up?
I do think that.
Yeah,
I mean, I
think you're wrong.
I don't know, man. Like, how can you be in support of a culture that tells people that they can't be who they want to be?
It's not defensible, but I think most people, including like the gay Palestinians or queer Palestinians or queer Lebanese people, understand that there is no room for advocating for civil liberties in your own domestic policies when you are escaping bombings. But when you start talking about like inferior cultures, that sets up the opportunity for, historically at least, dehumanization. And also it justifies a lot of the atrocities that those people end up experiencing.
But then all of that leading to later that night, Asmongold walking back some of his original comments on X. Writing, looking back on it, I was way too much of an asshole about the Palestine thing. My bad. Of course, no one deserves to have their life destroyed, even if they do things or have views I find regressive. You guys deserve more than me saying stupid shit like that. I'll do better. But
you handle this whole convo so well, dude. I don't know how you had the patience, I guess, dealing with those all day. It's not just dealing with you guys. I think the reason why I can be more patient in this situation is because it's not you guys at all. It's usually just like so many fucking people being relentlessly Islamophobic. Like, it's just such an everyday commonplace existence, especially amplified since October 7, that it's not you guys at all. It's usually people outside of this community. It's people that like tried to do that literally in the conversation with Asmongold. Like, Asmongold gets banned from Twitch. What was the LSF take yesterday? The top post on LSF was literally Hasan says the Houthi he talked to was like Anne Frank. Okay. I said that within the framework of the Yemeni teenager, okay, the Yemeni teenager being a survivor of genocide, not the Israeli genocide, mind you, the genocide in Yemen. This is a person, and I said this, whose entire life has been bombing and famine. That's all he has known, right? And that was the only part that they clipped. The only part that one of Bonarelli's dick riders clipped. And that only works if you are not aware that there was a genocide in Yemen at all. It only works when your automatic assumption is that every single person in Yemen is a Houthi. And even if they are a Houthi or not, that still does not change whether or not they were genocided. Okay? That's 4 hours of a conversation that took place, and that was the only takeaway that LSF users thought was appropriate from the conversation. That's a deliberate effort to look at me trying to address Islamophobia and then literally doubling down on the Islamophobia. I know you don't care, but X kept saying you're a terrorist platformer. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. One should ask him why he's so close with Aiden Ross, who literally has direct neo-Nazis on his stream to convince him that the Holocaust didn't fucking happen. Like, you know? The fuck are you talking about? Every single clip that gets posted of you is cut in the same manner with the same intention. I have no doubt in my mind that the sub is raw unbridled cancer. The reason why I'm pointing to this is because when these sorts of sentiments are captured outside of these circles by appropriate, knowledgeable individuals, they look at it very differently.
But given the situation, how things went down, not a ton of people are buying it. Right, among other things, saying he's only doing this to save face amid calls for him to get banned or removed from OTK. Others saying the most reflection you can do is, quote, my bad. There's no sugarcoating this. You wholeheartedly agree with the principles of Nazism. Log off. Also, going back to that note on people calling for him to get banned, actually, as I was recording today's show, he got banned from Twitch. Though notably, one, it was described as a temporary ban, and two, it was the specific Zach Rohr channel, and Asmongold has several.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Asmongold can't go live on his normal channel because Zach Rohr got banned. Like, I people still to this day don't understand how Twitch issues bans. Bans are usually not permanent, and not only are bans not permanent, but beyond that, you can't just you can't even appear on other people's channels.
Several channels on Twitch. So as the situation is developing in real time, I got to pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts with all this? Whether it be specifically about his disgusting comments, his apology, or the bans or the calls for them. But then, shifting gears, we're going to talk about...
Anyway. Slasher said he was banned for 14 days. Yeah, I heard. I know. I already celebrated this. Not my shy. My shy. My big, beautiful child who's 38 years old. My shy. Fucked up. Can't believe they did that to him. Shy David. It's fucked up. How could they do that? Did you see the tips post? Yes.